Gen Z, or let's call them Gen Z, we are in Canada. They've been called the rejected generation in economic terms. Let's get more from Hanif Bayat, founder and CEO of WOWA Leads. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Just remind us, what is WOWA all about? What do you
We are a personal finance platform with more than 1,000 guides, calculator, and content that more than 500,000 Canadians come every month to learn about mortgage rates, GIC rates, or like incentives, tax, and everything about personal finance.
And Generation Z are people who are typically between 28 and 16.
Yes, these are the people who typically looking for entry-level jobs.
Okay, so they're pretty young.
Yes.
You say there is evidence that, for one, I mean, CPI inflation numbers indicate that, sure, incomes have kept up with inflation over the years, but you say that hides an important component when it comes to accommodation, housing. Tell us about that.
Exactly. So when we typically, when they try to evaluate the present value of the income, they use CPI inflation to see that what was the value of the income, for example, 20 years ago. But there is some problem in it because not 100% of the income goes for living a life or consuming product. Actually, a portion of that goes for building a life. Building a life is a bit different than living a life. So when we look at this, the CPI is looking at like your grocery stores, like shelter, internet, your costs that you need to survive and live a life. But in reality, you need to save for retirement. You need to, many people need to buy assets for financial stability. And when it comes to that, you see that the power of median disposable income actually decreased since 2000. So what we did in our studies, we said that, okay, make an assumption. 80% of the income goes for consuming products. So we use CPI for that 80%. But the 20% goes for saving, and saving happens...
Should be. 20% should be saved.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Should be. So 20% should be like 15 to 25%. So we assumed like 20%. And we assumed 3 different asset classes. So first case was the average home. Second case was the S&P TSX, a net total return. And the third one was the precious metal. In our case, was gold. In all 3 scenarios, means that we assume still 80% of the income goes to consumer product. So use CPI inflation for that one. But for the 20%, we use asset inflation. We see that actually the power of median disposable income has decreased since year 2000, slightly.
Now, just zero in on mortgages and the principal repayments of mortgages. You argue that it's not fully reflected in CPI numbers?
No, in CPI, actually, there's nothing about principal payment.
Okay.
So in shelter component of the CPI that is tracked is mostly on focus on rent and also interest payment. Interest payment, you don't pay the principal. Okay. So it's, again, it's for living. It's not about that you're accumulating assets. So that's the that's the problem part. So when they, no one should use 100% of their income to, to consuming product. You you need to money for, for uncertainty, for retirement, for many different things. And that 20% that is assigned, you see that the poverty has decreased significantly in the last 2 decades.
So people between 16 and 28, it's not a myth that they've been falling behind economically.
Not at all, in my opinion. Because some people come and said, oh, you see the median income based on CPI actually slightly increased. But there's as I said, there's a bit misleading because no one should spend 100% of their income in consuming product, and they want to buy home, they want to buy asset stocks, and actually that freedom give them an ability to do more risk. So when these people are they cannot build a life by buying asset, actually they become more conservative, and that itself will add another factor to make them they feel behind because they cannot decide to do a risk like start a business or something, because for that you need at least some money, some buffer. And this is what we did we have seen it. And this generation, they're under pressure in different areas. It's not only this one, but this is one aspect that even if they find a job, the job payment is not as good as before for building a life. But this is not the only thing. Like when we look at AI, you know, AI is disrupting everything eventually. But currently, as of this moment, is disrupting entry-level jobs. And these entry-level jobs, who is looking for them? Gen Z. Do you know, for example, I firsthand, myself, I have seen that in our company, we had interns in programming, computer programming, that are very qualified. They have been very qualified, like, you know. And previously, these people were finding jobs very easily. And I've noticed that some of them are in the market for more than 1 year. And, you know, they're good from good schools, good grades, even had internship. And this is something that I have noticed. Like, I'm shocked at how struggle with the entry-level jobs. So it's not only even they find a job, the power of income, besides that, even the entry-level job has impacted heavily by AI.
Hanif, we'll have to leave it there. Fascinating topic, and thanks very much.
Thank you for having me.
Hanif Bayat, founder and CEO of WOWA. Okay, we're out of time on the open. Morning Markets is coming up next. Thanks very much for tuning into the show.